All right, happy Friday. I have one more story that I want to run by you this week. And this is one that I think is going to be a catalyst for discussion in the comment section down below. I generally want to know what your thoughts are on this, okay? The headline really took me aback when I saw it. Let me just show you. Let me just show you. So, this is a headline in the Telegraph by a guy called James Dexter Derrington. I have no sympathy for victims of this mortgage scandal. The banks held up their end of the bargain, and this is nothing more than sour grapes. Now, what is he alluding to here? He is alluding to a period of time in the 1990s where the banks basically launched shared appreciation mortgages. Now, in the 1990s, actually, let me just tell you from the article right here so you can see how it's actually written. Okay, so in the 90s, following years of falling house prices, two banks came to the market with a deal for homeowners. It was a straightforward agreement with the terms clearly laid out. We'll lend you interest free money against your home, and if it increases in value, we'll take a cut of the appreciation, and you'll never have to pay a penny until you sell. Now, for all intents and purposes, if you're in an environment in the 1990s where property prices are falling, maybe you're a little bit strapped for cash, but you do have a little bit of equity in your property, you thought, okay, this could be a way for me to get access to interest free money that I don't have to pay back until I sell said home. You might look at this and think, okay, yeah, this is a pretty good deal. However, if we go back here, you've got to think about the terms here. So the banks in question are Barclays and the Bank of Scotland. They only did this for a short period of time. But here's the deal in yellow. Homeowners could borrow up to 25% of the value of their home then and would only have to repay when the time came to sell, paying the bank the principal sum and up to 75% of the house price appreciation. Just get that for a second. Up to 75% of the house price appreciation. Now, just to bring this to life, okay, I'm going to do a scribe here. So let's just say for a moment, in, I don't know, let's just say 19, let's call it 1998. Your house is worth 100,000 pounds, right? Keep the maths really, really simple. £100,000 valuation, right? You have the ability to release 25%. So 25 grand, you take that as a loan, interest free, you don't have to pay it back until you sell this property. All right. You can do that any point in the future. Now, you fast forward, and let's say you fast forward to 2015. And again, I'm just going to use simple numbers here. And this house is now appreciated in value to 500K, right? So pretty easy numbers here. The appreciation in the property equals to £400,000, and you would have to pay 75% of this appreciation to the banks plus your original £25,000. Now, by my calculation, that's £300,000 in appreciation plus your £25,000 principal. So £325,000 is what the bank has made lending you £25,000 all that time ago. And the reason why this is in the news right now is because there are people who are now finding themselves in this position where, let me just find the right bit here. One homeowner who took out £200,000 in the late 90s saw the price of their home soar from 800,000 to 2.7 million, meaning they now owe the bank 1.6 million pounds, more than 7 times the initial sum. This is eye-watering stuff. Now, the argument is that the deal was a rip-off in the first place. The deal, people are saying, and this is going through courts, people are saying that the terms weren't laid out correctly. They were missold because who in their right mind would sign up to such a deal if they knew that property prices were going to surge? Now, bearing in mind, in the 1990s, nobody could have envisioned. I mean, the banks maybe had a bit of an inkling that property prices would appreciate, but I don't think anyone would have had a real appreciation that property prices would appreciate at the levels that they did. Now, in this instance, imagine This is when parents die, kids want to take over the estate, and all of a sudden they find out, hang on a second, we've got to shell out 1.6 million quid to the bank. And this is where this scandal's now kind of percolating and erupting, because people are looking at this thinking, absolutely not. But going back to this other article, I mean, this guy's showing absolutely no sympathy whatsoever. And he is actually pointing out here that he thinks that ultimately the terms were laid out bare and clear. And if the markets had gone the opposite way, then effectively whoever took out this loan against their property interest free, not paying a penny, would have basically been better off. It's just now so happens that because the banks are making a load of money, that this is being decried as a really harsh deal. It's saying here, had house prices fallen, the borrower enjoyed an incredibly generous deal. In the event of stagnating or falling values, they would never have they would have never owed a penny of interest to the bank. They would have only had to pay the principal sum, which they could repay at whatever time they choose. So you've got two ends of the spectrum here. You have the banks where unfortunately things have gone in their favor, and you have the homeowners and possibly their families who are staring down the opposite side of that deal where things have gone against them and they have a huge bill to pay. What do you think of this? Because honestly, there is something about reading fine print. And look, who reads fine print? I don't read fine print. Do you read fine print of every single contract that you take out? I mean, could you say that perhaps you didn't understand the terms of the contract? But the reality is, if you got it signed, sealed, and delivered, from a legal standpoint, where do you sit? And it feels like the legal system is siding with the banks here. The banks took on a huge risk. Their quids in. Yes, people are unhappy, but it's a fair deal. And well, as harsh as that headline is, James seems to agree. My part on this is this: like I've worked in banks before, in retail banking and corporate banking, and it is so important that you understand what you're going into. And this is the unfortunate thing. We're in an age now where there's a lot more financial education, right? People are more savvy around financial products. But here's the truth: most people, when they engage with a financial product and a financial provider in instances where they need money or they're going to extract money from something, they're going to banks for money, oftentimes it's at a point of need. I mean, who in their right mind does that? You could argue that they were in a position of need. So if there is anything at all that you could perhaps stand up or argue in court, is, well, was the person in a vulnerable state? Because by today's laws, there are certain things you can and you cannot do when dealing with someone who could be considered to be a vulnerable client. I don't know whether they had those in the 90s. I wasn't working in banking back then. But if you are at a point of need, it is very unlikely that you're paying attention to the small print because you're doing something for a means to an end, which is so it's why it's so important to make sure that you know what you're going into with any financial product. I mean, like I said this week, YouTube is great for research, it's great for information, but it's not great when you're sat there with your pen and literally about to hit that dotted line and you're signing for something and you're entered into a financial commitment. That's when you need proper guidance, coaching, and advice, and pick which one of those you opt for. But it's really important you understand what you're going into. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Is it a scandal? Is it a ripoff? Or did the banks just do good business and the luck's in their favor, their quids in? Let me know. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week. Cheers.